My name is Candice Jamieson. I'm a senior managing consultant in the Cape Town office. Recently joined Mobius from a big or large corporate. And yeah, I think a little bit about me is just, I got into this industry by a bit of chance. Traditionally came from a background in terms of studying how to develop systems, so being involved in terms of the systems development lifecycle of designing systems, developing them and supporting them. And that all kind of took a turn when in our honours class a large audit client or a large audit firm came in and said, we're looking for people who understand technology, but we need someone to be able to give us a view that we can trust what people have been building, trust what people have been developing, because ultimately from a financial audit perspective, that means that we can either rely on the data and the reports that are coming out of a system, or we can't. So we need people with an IT lens versus just kind of pure accountants or tax specialists, which was a very new industry, a new area of kind of opportunities. So of our entire class, I was the only person who actually applied and ended up getting a job. And that's kind of what started me down this path of ending up being in IT consulting and IT risk management versus being someone who's developing systems, speccing systems, being involved in project management. When I started, like I mentioned, it was at an audit firm. I managed to complete my articles there, which is essentially a 3-year kind of training contract, and was fortunate enough to get a job opportunity at one of my clients. So from going from an external audit kind of role where I was going and providing very specific assurance of very specific kind of functions and having a very defined purpose, I went into the internal audit team where kind of this world of you can provide advice and a view and perform reviews, not necessarily of this exact same IT general controls kind of bucket of work. There was an opportunity that presented itself, and it was such amazing timing. It was in the middle of COVID. It wasn't necessarily something I, as a very risk-averse person, would do in terms of leaping into something when I had spent, I'd spent a long time in an organization, in corporate, and really won the trust, I believe, of a lot of people in the organization and very senior people in the organization, because I'd walked this kind of journey with them. Because I'd gone from internal audit into then a risk function, and from that perspective I was able to help kind of solution and deliver specific items. And what I started realizing in that environment was, from a external audit perspective and then an internal audit perspective, there was only so much you could do in terms of adding value. You had to be very objective and very removed from the process. So when I was in the risk division, it gave me the opportunity to actually be part of solutioning things, and I started seeing some of the elements of what we were kind of raising in terms of risks and findings from an internal and external audit perspective weren't necessarily very easy to resolve. It was very easy to identify issues, but in terms of resolving the issues, there were constraints like people, the money. It's a really nice thing to have a huge list of recommendations that are textbook, but when it comes to trying to implement those in a business, you start realizing that you've got to follow a risk-based approach. You can't do everything all at once. You can't do everything to the letter of what the standard maybe has. You've got to try and pick and choose and make a very kind of considered decision as to where you're going to focus your efforts and where you're going to focus your energies. And that was something I really enjoyed. If anything, the tech assurance service line is something that isn't necessarily new, but it's always been this like faux pas. People didn't necessarily want to, we even changed the name. That's how intentional we were about it. It's not tech audit. It's around literally doing all the services or implementing all the services we already do, but from a slightly different angle and to a different audience or to a different stakeholder. So all of the work that we do in all of our other service lines, we can perform more of an assurance function or an assurance service on those. So ultimately that means that instead of providing the business entity or the management team with a view of how to build things, so from a consulting perspective, you've got a problem, we want to help you on the journey to fix it, let's walk the journey, let's build things. When it comes from an assurance angle, it's usually after the fact. So that building has already occurred. And there's either some type of benchmark, some standard, some type of view of where you were wanting to get to, some type of maturity level that was desired or that was set as an objective for the management team. And what you do is, from an assurance side of things, is that you go in and provide that independent view. It can be independent in terms of, look, you've just outsourced or co-sourced your internal audit function because you don't necessarily have the capability or the knowledge or the skill set in-house to perform that independent review, all the way to the fact that there might be a large body or regulatory body for a specific industry that you need to report to on a periodic basis to say and to get someone outside to confirm that you're doing what you should be doing and that you're aligning to whatever that industry body has put forward as a standard or a benchmark. So I think what's really exciting for me is the fact that, having joined Mobius, it has been a real kind of rebirth, and it has been very inspiring in terms of where the team have taken the company, you know, from its beginnings 9, almost 10 years ago to where it is now. I want to walk that journey with the team. I want to walk that journey with our clients in terms of just building digital trust, building this view that whenever you're uncertain, whenever you're unsure, you can call on Mobius, and that can be either helping you at the start of that journey in more of a consultancy kind of approach, versus coming in at the end and saying, look, we can give you that level of comfort.